As the F1 circus heads to the Chinese GP, all eyes are on the first sprint of the year. Last season's trial of the new format left many fans unimpressed, hoping it would be scrapped. Now Max Verstappen, Sergio Perez and Carlos Sainz have weighed in on the sprint. Let's dive into their thoughts. As the F1 circuit gears up for its big return to China, Red Bull's feeling a mix of hope and caution about their performance. Even though they've been dominating the 2024 season so far, some hiccups like Max Verstappen's car giving out in Melbourne and Ferrari stepping up their game are keeping the championship race tight. Down in Melbourne, things got rough for the team. They had some unexpected troubles getting their cars set up just right and keeping up the pace. Dr. Helmut Marko, one of the bigwigs at Red Bull, told Sky Deutschland he's crossing his fingers they don't run into any more surprises like they did in Australia. He also pointed out how rough the Melbourne track was, saying the asphalt was really aggressive. Adding insult to injury, they totally missed the mark on predicting how long their tyres would hold up, which is usually one of their strong suits. We totally underestimated how quickly our tyres would wear out, and that's usually where we shine, Marko said. Sergio Perez felt the sting of that miscalculation, dealing with some serious tyre wear during the race. As the sprint weekend setup debuts in China for the 2024 season after a long break due to the pandemic, Verstappen has some concerns about getting his car dialed in just right. Marko echoed those worries, hoping they won't be caught off guard by tyre wear. He also managed they've learned a thing or two since last time, but going into China is basically uncharted territory for almost everyone. On top of that, the Shanghai track itself has seen some big changes. They put down fresh asphalt and smoothed out some of the rough spots that caused problems before. Horner, the head honcho at Red Bull, took notice of Ferrari's strong showings. He pointed out how competitive they were in Melbourne and Suzuka. It's shaping up to be a real showdown, with Alonso from Alpine saying he expects Ferrari and Red Bull to be battling it out on the track, especially with China's long corners and a layout similar to Australia's. As F1 heads to Miami after Shanghai, Ferrari is itching for a strong showing, especially since they've got a major vehicle upgrade lined up for Imola. A report from Sky Italia suggests this upgrade could give them an extra 2.5 tenths on the track. Charles Leclerc is putting in the work to master tyre temperature management, spending 3 days in the simulator honing his skills. With 2 qualifying sessions and 2 races back-to-back, he knows there's a lot at stake and wants to be ready to seize any opportunity to score big points. His competitive drive is clear. He's not settling for second place. He's gunning for the win. But not everyone's convinced Ferrari is ready to challenge for the championship. Former F1 driver Vittorio Liuzzi doubts their readiness for the title, though he acknowledges they've made progress. He also thinks Red Bull's reliability issues could come back to haunt them, potentially opening the door for Ferrari to make their mark on the season. Max Verstappen voiced his concern over the decision to hold a sprint at the Chinese Grand Prix, considering the 5-year gap since the last race at the Shanghai International Circuit. He believes it might not be the wisest move, especially since the new ground effect cars haven't raced there yet, leaving drivers and teams uncertain about what to expect. With only 60 minutes of on-track time before the sprint qualifying, there's limited opportunity for them to get accustomed to the circuit. Changes have been made to the weekend format to allow teams to tweak their cars after the sprint. Qualifying for Sunday's Grand Prix has been pushed back to Saturday afternoon to ensure that strict parc fermé conditions don't kick in too early. However, despite these adjustments, there's still not much time for drivers and teams to get in enough practice before the action heats up at the Chinese Grand Prix. Most drivers on the grid have raced at the Shanghai International Circuit before, but with such a long break since the last race there, the current world champion isn't convinced that having a sprint this weekend is the best choice. Verstappen chuckled when reminded that teams only have 1 practice session before diving into the sprint shootout in China. He doesn't think it's ideal, pointing out that when you haven't been to a track for a while, you never know what to expect. He believes a regular race weekend would have been better. However, he acknowledges that mixing things up might add some excitement for the fans. But purely from a driving and performance standpoint, he doesn't see it as the smartest move. Verstappen hopes they can quickly get up to speed at the track, as he's always enjoyed racing there. He's optimistic they won't have to make too many adjustments to the car once they hit the track. Adding his perspective, Red Bull teammate Sergio Perez expressed his hope that there won't be any issues with the track during the sprint in China, like drainage problems or other issues that could throw them off. He sees the sprint as a good thing for the show, but from a preparation standpoint, he thinks it'll be tough, especially since he hasn't raced there with Red Bull before. Carlos Sainz chimed in, sharing his love for the Shanghai circuit, which he believes is perfect for a sprint format due to its layout and potential for overtaking. However, he doesn't think it's worth the risk for drivers and teams, especially given the limited practice time and potential uncertainties with the track. Sainz emphasized that while it might be exciting for fans, engineers and drivers feel differently. He believes it's not wise to take the risk of diving straight into a sprint after such a long break from the track, especially with potential track changes adding to the uncertainty. Verstappen makes a valid point. It's often hard to expect Formula One as a whole to prioritize doing the smart thing, whether you're involved in the sport or just watching it. I also agree with Perez on this one. Let's hope that issues like drain covers causing havoc don't become the main headlines again. Personally, I think F1 should take a stand and declare that if the FIA can't ensure a safe weekend without these kinds of incidents, then this could be the last time they're welcomed at a Grand Prix. The drivers deserve to be protected from oversights, and the public safety should always come first while ensuring the show goes on. In the quest for excitement, it seems like they're forgetting that this is a sport, not a gamble or a Hollywood blockbuster. I've mentioned this before, and it still holds true. Liberty Media seems to be steering F1 towards the entertainment style of WWE. When nearly everyone is criticizing the sprint races, but Formula One management, FOM, just keeps changing the format instead of addressing the concerns, it raises questions about their decision-making. The FIA could have easily adopted the successful format used in F2, which has been working well for years. It's puzzling why they didn't simply copy it. The F2 format ties the whole weekend together, with each session having an impact on the ones that follow. Now, F1 seems to be taking a page out of Formula E's book, with 2 separate qualifying sessions and 2 separate races. But is this really what fans want? Some might argue that more racing is always better, but personally, many prefer the F2 format, especially with the added excitement of reverse grid races. Speaking of reverse grid races, they often end up being less thrilling because they're held before the main race and offer fewer points. This leads many competitors to play it safe and conserve their machinery, detracting from the excitement. While strategic elements are a key part of F1, reverse grid races seem more about giving lower-tier teams and drivers a chance to shine, rather than truly enhancing the sport. F2 may be a spec series, but F1 is not, and the reverse grid concept goes against the core principles of racing. And then there's sprint racing, which, while enjoyable, can be confusing. The winner of the sprint may technically win a race, but they're not considered the true winner. Just ask Piastri or K-Mag, who snagged a pole position but ended up starting 8th in the main race. It just doesn't sit right. For 70 years, F1 stuck with the tradition of qualifying on Saturday and racing on Sunday. Why change it now? Let us know in the comments below.